Tonight, a deadly end to the siege in Sydney. Police storm a cafe where a terrorist held more than a dozen hostages. Ben Tracy is in Sydney. Jerika Duncan on a deadly shooting rampage in the Philadelphia suburbs. Oil prices fall again, but not airfares. Manuel Bajorquez on the airlines defying the laws of gravity and supply and demand. And Michelle Miller on report card day for high school dropouts getting a second chance.
A lot of these kids have never accomplished anything in their lives.
Until now.
I'm gonna rock your world!
This is the CBS Evening News with Scott Pelley.
Good evening. The police in Sydney, Australia waited hour after hour today, and then gunfire rang out so they could wait no longer. They stormed a cafe where a gunman had taken 17 hostages. The Prime Minister said the man, who apparently acted alone, had a long history of violent crime, infatuation with extremism, and mental instability. Ben Tracy begins our coverage in Sydney.
Just before 2 a.m., 5 hostages managed to escape and made a frantic dash towards riot police. Minutes later, there was a series of loud explosions, followed by flashes of heavy gunfire that continued for 30 seconds. More than 16 hours after the hostage crisis began, Australian Army commandos poured in to end it. When it was over, 5 people were injured and 3 were dead, including the hostage taker, an Iranian refugee called Man Haroon Munis.
I'll fight with these weapons.
Munis sought asylum in Australia in 1996 and assumed a new identity. He was well known to authorities. A self-proclaimed sheikh, he sometimes protested publicly on Sydney's sidewalks, posting videos to his own YouTube channel. Last year, he was sentenced to community service for writing hate mail to the families of Australian soldiers killed in Afghanistan. He had also been charged with sexual assault and with being an accessory to his ex-wife's murder. Munis was out on bail. The siege began at around 9:45 yesterday morning at the popular cafe in a busy shopping mall in downtown Sydney. Soon after, the black flag favored by Islamic militants was pressed up against the cafe window by the people trapped inside. Streets in the neighborhood were closed and many offices evacuated. Munis was seen pacing, and he appeared to be wearing a bandana with Arabic writing that read, "We are your soldiers, O Prophet Muhammad."
I'm one of the many hostages here at the Lint Cafe at Martin Place.
In a series of online videos, the hostages listed Munis's demands.
That he wants an Islamic State flag.
He wanted an ISIS flag to be delivered to him and to be put in contact with the Australian Prime Minister.
There are 4 bombs altogether here.
Munis threatened that bombs would be set off if his demands were not met, but no explosives were found when police moved in.
CBS News correspondent Ben Tracy reporting from the scene in Sydney, Australia. Late today, we learned the identity of the 2 hostages who were killed. One was Katrina Dawson, a 38-year-old lawyer and mother of 3. The other, the 34-year-old store manager, Tori Johnson. Johnson's being called a hero this evening. He was killed while attempting to wrestle a gun from the shooter. Daniel Sutton is a correspondent with Network 10 in Australia. Dan, police knew all about Munis and his extreme views. What can you tell us about how this happened?
Well, Scott, the incident that flicked the switch, so to speak, may have been a court case here in Sydney just on Friday, in which he was attempting to have charges relating to those offensive letters he sent the families of slain Australian soldiers overturned. Now, that appeal failed, and what we saw occur here this morning was certainly a transformation from a man many considered an unapologetic menace, certainly, but also, frankly, a crackpot, into a violent terrorist and a killer. And we saw that violence on display right to the very end. We know that he used the butt of his weapon to assault his hostages inside that cafe before turning the gun on one of them and executing them. And that is the moment that police moved in and decided to storm the cafe and end this siege.
Over the last several weeks, there has been a lot of police action involving alleged Islamic extremists in Sydney.
There has been, Scott, but this man is considered certainly a lone wolf. There is no suggestion of any links between him and any other group, despite the fact that from within that cafe, one of his demands was for an Islamic State flag. Now, that demand was never fulfilled, and there is a suggestion he was trying to heap blame for his own personal actions onto a terrorist group that is known around the world. Certainly, this is a man who likes the spotlight and was trying to claim some form of notoriety. Sadly, he has achieved that.
Daniel Sutton from Network 10 in Australia. Daniel, thank you very much. Sydney, though, is just the latest in a series of attacks by mentally unstable criminals who claim to be fighting in the cause of Islamic extremism. In May, 4 people were killed by a gunman at a Jewish museum in Brussels. In September, in Moore, Oklahoma, a woman was beheaded by a co-worker. October 20th, a Canadian soldier was killed in a hit-and-run attack in Quebec, and 2 days later, the Canadian Parliament building was attacked and another soldier died. With some insight into all of this, we're joined now by Michael Morell, who was until last year the #2 at the CIA. He's now our senior CBS News security consultant. Michael, Brussels, Moore, Oklahoma, Sydney, Australia, all of these individuals acting alone. What's the common denominator?
Scott, I think the common denominator is there are a lot of young men and young women who are looking for meaning in their lives. They can be mentally unstable, they can be mentally stable. And ISIS is giving them that meaning through its pervasive social media.
Very sophisticated social media.
The most sophisticated that we've seen, which I think is a reflection of the Westerners who have gone to fight there. They've helped ISIS hone that social media.
It seems to me that defeating this kind of threat must be nearly impossible compared to going after an organized terrorist group that's communicating with each other.
So if we had a situation, Scott, where ISIS was directing an attack, you have a chance to get in between that and get that information and stop the attack. When you have a lone wolf, they're acting on their own, little communication, very difficult to stop.
This is exactly what ISIS hoped to pull off?
Exactly, and we're going to see more of it, Scott.
Mike Morell, former #2 at the CIA. Thank you, Michael.
You're welcome, Scott.
Moving on to the other news this evening, after 9/11, the CIA used extreme interrogation tactics, including waterboarding, to try to get information out of terror suspects, a practice that was criticized last week in a U.S. Senate report. Well, a new CBS News poll out today, 69% of Americans told us they consider waterboarding to be torture, but nearly half, 49%, said such tactics are sometimes justified. And more than half, 57%, said these interrogation techniques often or sometimes provide reliable information that can help prevent terror attacks. A hunt is underway tonight for a man that the police say went on a deadly shooting rampage today in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, north of Philadelphia. 6 people have been killed, and Jerika Duncan has the latest.
The shooting spree started just before 3:30 this morning. These 2 bullet holes show an area where the alleged gunman fired shots. Police say the woman who was found dead inside the apartment was the gunman's ex-wife. One neighbor who did not want to be identified spoke to our CBS station in Philadelphia.
I heard 4 gunshots, and I heard the kids screaming, "Mommy, no, we want my mom." And I ran into my son's room, and I looked out the window, and he was actually taking the kids in a car and leaving.
The police later found those 2 children who are now safe. 35-year-old Bradley William Stone is suspected of all of the shootings, and authorities say all of the victims had a familial relationship with Stone. The killings took place in 3 separate towns. Officials say Stone, who uses a cane, may be wearing military fatigues. He is a former Marine who spent time in Iraq. He was discharged in 2011. The district attorney just wrapped up a news conference, Scott. She did not take any questions, but residents in this area are being warned to stay indoors and keep their doors locked because the gunman is still on the loose tonight.
Jerika Duncan in Pennsylvania for us tonight. Jerika, thank you. Today, the families of 9 people who were killed at Sandy Hook Elementary School sued the maker of the semi-automatic rifle that was used to gun down 20 first graders and 6 educators in Newtown, Connecticut. Yesterday was the 2nd anniversary of that awful day. Don Daler is covering the lawsuit.
Vicky Soto died trying to shield her students from a hail of bullets fired from a Bushmaster assault rifle. Her sister Jillian blames the gun maker.
Bushmaster needs to be held accountable to an extent and realize that making this rifle and selling it to civilians isn't okay.
The Bushmaster Adam Lanza used is the civilian version of a military assault rifle. Josh Koskoff is the attorney representing the 10 families.
It was a product that was made to kill the enemy in combat, efficiently and ferociously. There's no need for this product in our civilization, and we can't secure these weapons from people who will do us harm.
But it is a legal, constitutionally protected product.
So that doesn't make it safe. That doesn't make it unreasonably risky.
A 2005 federal law limits civil liability for gun manufacturers, but there are exceptions, including negligent entrustment. That means the families have to prove Bushmaster sold a weapon with full knowledge it would be used to cause injury.
Most murders in this country occur with the use of handguns, not assault rifles. You're going after 1% of 1% of the problem in this country.
Well, statistics are funny sometimes, though, because if you're sitting in Jillian Soto's shoes or some of the parents' shoes, that statistic really doesn't matter. For them, it was 100%.
Vicky's not a statistic. She's not just a number on a piece of paper. She's a real person. She's my sister. She deserves to be here, and she's not. And something has to change.
Bushmaster told us they can't comment on pending litigation, but in recent similar lawsuits, they've won one and lost one. Bushmaster paid into a $2.5 million settlement in 2004 over the use of one of their rifles by the D.C. snipers. But in 2002, a federal judge ruled the gun maker was not to blame for a shooting spree that killed a postal worker. Scott.
Don Daler, thank you, Don. Oil prices take another sharp drop, so what's holding up airfares? And did this highway crunch steal Christmas? When the CBS Evening News continues. Today, OPEC said it will not cut oil production, and with that, the price fell nearly $2 more to just under $56 a barrel. Gasoline fell another penny overnight to a nationwide average of $2.55 a gallon. This week, we're taking you to 4 cities to look at the impact of lower energy prices on domestic oil exploration, jobs, the auto industry, and tonight, airfares. Here's Manuel Bajorquez with a man who has a very long trip to and from work.
Ian Bierce loves his job at a visual effects production company in Manhattan. You'd have to for the 1,204-mile commute.
So from office door to the door of your house, how long is it?
About 6 hours.
6 hours.
Yeah. I would love to play Legos later.
Home is in Minnesota, where he spends the weekends. He's documented his super commute on video. We joined him on his last trip home. Bierce says the only thing that's gotten smaller in the air is his legroom.
This is really uncomfortable.
In the third quarter, jet fuel prices dropped 6% and profits grew. The top 3 performers, Southwest up 27%, American a record 87%, and United 144% over last year. And those profits may look small when you consider fourth quarter jet fuel prices have plummeted nearly 25%. Ian's wife Megan books all of his travel. They've paid $13,000 in plane tickets this year. That's up $2,000.
Do you expect, if they're saving money on fuel, that they would pass those savings on to you?
You would hope so, but I don't think that I would be very surprised to see that happen.
It's frustrating. It would be terrific if we saw a reduction in those ticket prices.
Analyst Daryl Genovese doesn't foresee a drop in airfares until 2016.
So their incentive for the near term anyway is to try to maximize fares, not to try to cut them.
He says business and last-minute travelers will keep paying for higher fares. We were a perfect example. Ian Bierce booked a month in advance. His ticket, $296. Our last-minute fare was $688.
If demand remains high, they have no incentive to lower fares.
That's correct. The airlines are very focused on keeping the fuel savings.
An industry trade group projects U.S. carriers will make $13 billion in profits next year and forecasts a 5% drop in airfares. But Scott, another group pointed out to us today that fuel is just one cost for the airlines, and their operating expenses rose 3% this year.
Manuel Bojorquez. Manuel, thank you. Tomorrow night, Manuel will take us to Houston, where drivers are paying some of the lowest gas prices in the country. He'll look at the impact on auto sales and the kind of vehicles folks are buying. Bill Cosby's wife breaks her silence. We'll have that next. Today, Camille Cosby came to the defense of her husband after a number of women accused him of sexual assault. In a written statement, she said, "Bill Cosby is a kind man, a generous man, a funny man, and a wonderful husband, father, and friend. The man you thought you knew. A different man," she said, "has been portrayed in the media, a man I do not know." Camille Cosby said, "None of us ever want to be in a position of attacking the victim, but the question should be asked," she wrote. Who is the victim? Today, a storm poured more rain on drought-stricken California. Strong winds snapped power poles in San Jose. It's the third storm to soak the state in 10 days. Last week, the state got, on average, 3.5 inches of rain. The driver of a FedEx truck lost control early today, and this was the result. The truck flipped, spilling hundreds of packages on a New Jersey interstate. The driver has only minor injuries. FedEx sent another truck. It's the busiest day of the year for the delivery service, 10 days before Christmas. The National Guard takes on a life-saving mission. We'll find out if it was a success next. Since the summer, we've been following the progress of high school dropouts who are getting a second chance through a program run by the National Guard. They attend an academy near Los Angeles, and as Michelle Miller shows us, the transformation of these young lives has been remarkable.
When we first met Angel Kayla Master in July, she was a scrawny, undisciplined high school dropout looking to escape a tough past.
Me and my mom were homeless pretty much, sleeping in cars, underneath freeways, in hotels.
But look at her now. She's a leader of her platoon.
Excellence in citizenship, Cadet LeMaster.
I needed to know that I could push myself.
And what have you been rewarded with as a result of pushing yourself?
I have been rewarded with pride. I'm so proud of myself for what I've accomplished.
Look your left and look your right. Look your left and look your right.
The rigid military-style structure these cadets receive is just one part of this program.
You're learning new things here at Sunburst.
But Sunburst is a fully accredited high school.
I'm a 4.0 GPA, straight A student.
The cadets attend classes 8 hours a day, have mandatory study sessions, and access to tutors. The one big difference here, they don't have to worry about basic needs.
Am I being fed? They're being fed here. Are they being clothed? They're being clothed here. Do they have to attend school? They have to attend school.
Karen Hudgens is the principal.
Instead of thinking about themselves as can't do, they start thinking about can do. And it's amazing what kids can do when they have this sense of competence. And I think that's what the program, both the military and the schoolhouse side, does for these kids.
Cadet Mellon.
At a recent report card day, the parents of these high school dropouts who were used to seeing D's and F's were overwhelmed by the sight of A's and B's.
Let's say outstanding.
He's a wonderful student, wonderful student.
When do you start to see the transformation?
Almost immediately.
Sergeant Rochelle Sanza is a counselor to these troubled teens. She says these last few weeks are when doubt seeps in.
A lot of these kids have never accomplished anything in their lives. A victory to them is scary because they don't know what it feels like and how it should feel like. So they're fighting it because they don't want to go back to that environment where they were once at. You know, letting go is really hard for a lot of them.
I'm pretty scared to leave.
Cadet Adjike Stewart finds it hard not to doubt herself.
I don't have that I can do it mentality. When someone's told you something for so long, it's pretty hard to try and break the chain. So I have to take it day by day.
It's truly been a physically and mentally taxing experience for these cadets, but they've come quite a long way. Graduation from Sunburst Challenge Academy is the goal, and Scott, that will be our final segment later this week.
Amazing series, Michelle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott.
And that's the CBS Evening News for tonight. For all of us at CBS News all around the world, good night.